Okay, so some great insights about healthcare in general, and this particular use case, and the use of analytics, and all the cautions that go with that. We are dealing with people's health. So our next presentation, we're going to take a risk-based approach, as Veronica Tan mentioned in her keynote. We were aware that our next speaker may or may not be able to be present for this presentation. So our next speaker, Niraj Naidu, the head of APAC field engineering at DataStax, he actually recorded his presentation on leading digital transformation. And we're going to play the recording, but we have the benefit now of Niraj is actually available for the Q&A. So we're going to play the recording, and then please feel free to give your questions in the chat, and Niraj will come on screen with me after the completion of the recording, and we'll ask a bunch of questions about to pick apart this aspect of the open data stack.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Niraj Naidu, and I'm the APAC Head of Field Engineering at DataStax. In this session today, I'll be walking you through how leading digital transformation with an open data stack for the future is one of the fundamental pillars for enterprises in this day and age. See, we recognize that enterprises have been on digital transformation journeys for years, starting with applications. The modern internet required enterprises to adopt technology that could support applications serving millions or even billions of users. Infrastructure modernization followed with the introduction of virtualization and containerization. More recently, enterprises have prioritized the need to move into the cloud. But what about data? Unfortunately, unlocking data's true potential is often complicated. I experience partnering with enterprises to support their last mile of digital transformation has provided us some insights, which we'll cover a little later on. So you may be asking, what is the open data stack? The open data stack is open source. It's cloud and architecturally agnostic. It's containerized. It's powerful, but simple APIs. All this and more translated into cloud native capabilities for the developer, the operator, and the consumer. Another question you might be asking is, what does the open data stack power and why does it matter? Well, we also need to ask, what are other things that enterprises are looking at? What are they trying to achieve? One of the clear ones is modern cloud native applications. What does the open data stack provide developers? Well, it gives developers the access to the tools and techniques that they're already familiar with. And all of this needs to support real-time event-driven applications that have instant actions. When we speak to technology leaders, we've heard that global scale and 100% availability is just one set of the outcomes of modernizing data. We've also heard from leaders that with the first wave of digital transformation successfully delivered, the bill has come due and on complexity and on costs. Technical leaders must now modernize data platforms to deliver more value at a lower cost per transaction, maintaining SLA and exceeding customer expectations, and elevate developer productivity with modern APIs. But this is made difficult by long waits and high costs for infrastructure and dependencies on operations, complexity of making databases and open source projects work together, but also finding and keeping developer talent to bring it all together. So how do you build the open data stack? We believe that the modern data in the next 10 years requires an open data stack, which will free you to build modern digital experiences that are richly interactive, use massive data, and are delivered by APIs. This stack must be developer ready, gives today's developers modern APIs and microservices to build leading edge digital experiences. It's Kubernetes based. This will reduce TCO by 3 to 5 times by simplifying and standardizing data operations with a common control plane for cloud and cloud native attributes and other capabilities. And that it is cloud delivered. New applications are deployed in either cloud or cloud native, and new applications are written to leverage these technologies. If we satisfy all these requirements, how does the open data stack that is fit for the modern application really look like? So the slides prior outlined a great journey for an enterprise that is looking at a technology stack with a greenfields or within a greenfields ecosystem. However, some enterprises are still linked to technical debt and have to take into consideration some of the brownfield monolithic environments or other regulatory requirements. This requires flexibility, on-premise or self-managed, cloud or managed. There is a need to architect along a common set of capabilities. So it would be a database that is always open for business. They can keep up with demand, whether it's scaling out or scaling down automatically. It would run on Kubernetes so that data can be managed just like microservices-oriented applications from a single control plane. It would be based on open source and run on any cloud to avoid any vendor lock-in. It would be a provider that actually contributes to the code base and not just slaps their brand and charges you for something that the community builds. It would have a modern data API or APIs to let developers jumpstart their projects. It would put developers at the center, providing all they need from a data platform with zero operational headaches. We've seen many cutting-edge companies trying to implement something similar based on open source technologies, and some of them succeed and some of them fail. So, what's an impact an open data stack can deliver? Let's visit some of the architectural qualities and benefits of an open data stack as a platform. From an operator's perspective, it should be minimizing complexity, or human in-the-loop processes, introduce consistency and repeatability. From a developer perspective, allow for the use of familiar APIs. No need to think about the database, and it's about enriching their experience. From a business perspective, lowering TCO and introducing scalability and elasticity, minimizing risk and enhancing interoperability. Let's expand on the idea of the value of an open data stack and what it can provide. Using an example that most Cassandra users may be familiar with. Historically, capturing changes within Cassandra may be challenging, as it would be for any distributed database. However, by leveraging the power of Apache Cassandra, more specifically Cassandra 4.0, and Apache Pulsar, a messaging and streaming solution, DataStax has enhanced Cassandra's ability to support real-time, event-driven applications. Here are some of the benefits, as an example, by Persona. For data engineering and data operators, provide real-time access to data throughout your data ecosystem. For application developers and application architects, making applications more responsive by triggering application logic in response to data change events in Cassandra. For data scientists, access deeper insights by extracting a time series of database events and push them to your data lake for advanced processing. And for data architects, improve data quality and standardization by automating transformation and cleansing into your pipelines. So building the real-time database pipeline with Astra. DataStax Astra DB and Astra Streaming provides users a fully managed solution to build real-time data pipelines that abstract the database and deliver data persistency, where data becomes unlocked from any one silo and available to all, developer, for example, or even a data scientist. And this also helps to drive business value. So what does DataStax and what is it delivered? From the left side, it's about capabilities that empower developers to innovate. And from the right side, deliver data to upstream and downstream solutions to best take advantage of the real-time data. For example, DataStax has worked with 9 of the top 15 banks in the world. In the next slide, I'll walk you through a use case where we've partnered with a company in APAC to help them on their modern open data stack of the future. Some of the top solutions to keep in mind are legacy migrations. We see most financial companies, as an example, working and modernizing their architectures to enable digital transformation initiatives, such as automation and real-time insights. Other common solutions are around customer insights and fraud detection, and many more. As we'd spoken about just before about customer examples of where DataStax has worked and supported a customer through that journey around building their modern open data stack. One of the recent customers that we've worked with is a company called Endowus, and they're headquartered in Singapore. It's one of the first digital advisors for CPFs and SRSs and cash savings. And it's an enterprise that is helping everyone invest holistically, conveniently, and providing a lot of expert advice. Now, Endowus had a challenge, right? They'd sought to put customers first and understanding them more holistically through data. So Endowus built a cloud-native platform based on an event sourcing pattern with microservices architecture, in which all apps run on containers. But initially, the customer hosted and the company hosted its own Cassandra environment. But in Endowus, as their business grew, the IT team looked for additional support. So part of the solution was Astra DB or Astra Database to reduce operational overhead. It provided Endowus enterprise-grade features for its, for their Cassandra environment, in addition to the efficiency and flexibility of cloud agnostic managed database services. The solution itself, leverages a lot of DataStax contributions to the Stargate Data API Gateway, which eliminates drivers and the need for Endowus developers to learn Cassandra query language or CQL, and some of the results that this provided was that it provided Endowus by realizing the benefits of faster data to enable its developers to provide investment customers with a better experience, and with Astra and the synergies of the APIs with Endowus's microservices architecture. They really capitalized and they were able to analyze on results and iterate quickly to adjust areas that needed improvement, and more effectively allowed them to capitalize on some of these successes. And we've got a bit of a side note here from their CTO, Drew Lee, and his perspective on DataStax and with Astra, since they've expanded quickly, and I'll just read it out here. We appreciate being able to rely on DataStax and Astra DB to alleviate the administrative burden of our database, and also we value the resilience of DataStax and Cassandra. They've been able to ensure very high availability for our customers, and mandated by our the regulators in Singapore. And this is just a great example of how they're on their own digital transformation journey, and how this is helping them build their modern their modern open data stack. And I think some of the biggest things to take in consideration as we spoke about in today's session is looking at how we need to organizations should be thinking about that open data stack of the future, and how it's going to be Kubernetes based, API driven, it's developer ready, and it's cloud delivered. And maybe just a couple of notes just to leave the audience with is that I guess in summary, a digital transformation journey with an open data stack, for the future is about momentum. It's about vision and thoughtful execution with the right architecture and through the right partnerships. And if you'd love to learn more about this, please head to to the Building Modern Cloud Native Applications with AstraDB that's hosted by Alan Wan, and the virtual roundtable later on, which is about how leveraging data for accelerated business growth is helping Endowus with Deepak Sada, who is the VP of Engineering at Endowus. But with that, I would love to thank everyone for joining this session, and we can jump into questions and answers. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Niraj. This topic is very relevant to our theme of digitizing at scale with APIs. I have a couple of questions from this, because the data tech stack is getting really busy. It's really complicated. You just from the charts that you showed, it seems like every additional technology that comes along adds another layer on top of this cake of the tech stack, of the data tech stack. And it brings into question, well, what are the skills that an organization is going to need in order to manage that? Because SQL hasn't gone away, it's been around 1970, and it's still very familiar. And even people are trying to build SQL even into NoSQL type languages because of the flexibility of this query language. But when you add on different types of databases, and then different types of streaming and other things you're trying to do to distribute it, and also to scale through Kubernetes, the skill set of someone who's going to manage that is getting quite complex. What do organizations really need to maintain in their organizational memory and the skill sets of their staff to manage all this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question, John. I think where organizations are now obviously moving with that digital transformation journey, right, and looking at how they obviously unlock the power of this new data world that we live in. They're looking for developers and for their IT staff and even some business users, right, that have a good understanding and a good skill set, around cloud-based technologies, right, that are centering on capabilities and functionalities that hyperscalers like Google and Microsoft and even AWS provide, right. And I think with the way that we're coming even out of a post-pandemic world, right, and I think there's still some niggly bits. A lot of business models that enterprises have had are shifting, right. They're shifting away from that storefront to a digital front, and the skill sets that need to support that are very much based around those cloud technologies. And I think that's where a lot of developers are now really trying to hone in their skill sets, where a lot of operators are trying to really hone in their skill sets, and architects are probably spending a lot more time focused on bringing from that on-premise perspective into a multi-cloud and even a true public cloud architecture, right?
Yeah, and actually, when I asked that question, I was thinking about technical staff. But you bring up a point that with the democratization of data and the demand for data and insights from data by business users, there are also some skill sets. So you see, business analysts use data visualization tools. They need more data delivered to them. That data comes from lots of different sources now, not just one. And being able to gather data from different sources is in itself a skill, and being able to glean insights from that. So for non-technical staff, you mentioned getting data from cloud-based sources. What should people be thinking about if they're sort of managers or people who need to make business decisions on data? It's not just even if it's data that the company holds, it may not be in the company's data center. It may be in several different clouds. So what are the sort of suggestions you would make to for them to think about how they're going to navigate around this landscape?
Yeah, another great question, right? I think, John. I think there's many different ways of potentially answering that, and I think we'd need a separate session in itself to dive deeper, because that's the justice it requires. But I think one of the common, maybe not necessarily a specific tool or a specific skill set, but a specific approach when we're looking at different repositories, right, quote unquote, of where data may be residing, is looking at how we bring that all together and make it meaningful through a single control plane, right, and through a single access plane. And I think there are a lot of tools out there, and a lot of products, and a lot of capabilities that those products provide that can support those business users, right, to utilize the meaningful sets of data that they want to get access to, right? I mean, especially when you've got enterprises that are very interested in understanding, customer 360 profiles, right, and understanding what those customers are thinking and acting and doing on a daily basis, right?
Great. Well, thanks very much for sharing that. And I guess your team are running a workshop at just after lunch at 1:10 p.m. and then a roundtable where the VP of Engineering at Endowus is going to be there. So people who want to learn more directly about how Endowus has been able to create and extend the data tech stack be very useful.
Yeah, appreciate it, John. Yeah, I mean, great workshop session with Alan, and a fantastic roundtable with one of the customers that I spoke about during my session today from Endowus with Deepak. I think it would be awesome if we can get lots of people there.
Okay, thanks very much, Niraj.
All right, thanks, guys.